Yeah, my accident happened on a very wet night in December in 1970. I managed to turn a Land Rover over that I was driving, and it blew up. And what happened, I suppose, was an extraordinary moment of total crisis, total change that I had no understanding of. It was one of those completely random, in some ways random events that caused one part of my life to stop and another total new chapter to start. I found myself in a burns unit. A few days later, I opened my eyes to see, finally opened my eyes to see the world in a very different way. I was completely bandaged up, lying in a bed in a hospital, having been just 2 or 3 days before, very active person who'd taken pretty much the whole of life for granted, as it were, and particularly my looks, my athleticism, and all of that seemed to be, well, at risk, completely impossible. So it was a very stark event, which had huge ramifications for years and years, well, the rest of my life. Yeah, I mean, the physical adjustment from losing so much weight to 40% burns and so on, huge amount of sort of physical effort, therapy, training, physicality. And I did get back to doing an enormous amount of sport. I eventually became a dairy farmer. What? A dairy farmer? You can't be a dairy farmer with 1.5 hands. Oh, well, just watch me. And I did, and I don't think anybody kind of noticed that I was missing a few fingers. The cows certainly didn't. You know, it's a sort of classic attempt. It wasn't a deliberate attempt by me, but I knew that actually getting myself physically rebuilt was a very important part of my self-esteem, before and after. It's not to say that that was all of what my self-esteem was bundled up as, but it was a significant part. I can remember one nice story. One of the plastic surgeons who actually had very good expectations about what I could achieve, heard that I was a squash player beforehand, and he was a squash player, and he said, oh, well, we'll have a game one day. And that was a really nice, you know, he wasn't writing me off. And actually I thrashed him later, you know. It was a good moment.